the current GOP frontrunner, Donald Trump. Donald, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Well, it's a great job, I think, in the debate this week, which, again, is reflective in the post polls. But I've got to ask you this question. You repeatedly say you're not a politician, you really don't know about politics, but you're doing quite well.
Well, Tony, I've been in politics all of my life. I mean, I've been on the other side. I was part of the so-called establishment, if there is such a thing. And I was a major contributor. I gave a lot of money over the last couple of years, even $350,000 to the RGA, the Republican Governors Association. And so I've been dealing with politics, and I've been dealing with politicians, practically all my life. And, I've gotten along with Democrats and liberals and Republicans and with conservatives, and I've sort of gotten along with everybody, or I wouldn't have been able to build the great company that I've built. I've employed tens of thousands of people, and, you have to be able to get along for that. And so I've been involved, but, this is certainly a different side of the equation. There's no question about it.
Well, you've tapped into something. There's a lot of unrest in this country. There's a lot of frustration, not just with the Democrats under under President Obama and his failed policies, but there's just as much frustration with the Republicans. And you seem to have tapped into that conservative, as I described earlier, angst that is out there. I mean, was that your plan when you got into this race?
Well, I had no plan. I was just angry at the stupidity. I used to use incompetence, and I think stupidity now turns out to be a better word because it's a slight bit stronger. The stupidity that that when I watch things happening in Washington, whether it's the Iran deal where we give them $150 billion, where we have to wait 24 days to inspect sites, and it's much longer than that in actuality, where they have the right to self-inspect, and where they keep our 4 prisoners. And now, just the other day, I hear that they now are ready to negotiate. Well, that deal's done. Now they're ready to negotiate a brand new deal on the prisoners. So we're going to start all over again. I mean, it's just gross incompetence, and it's hard to take. So I looked at it, as you know, last time, and Mitt Romney really let us down. It was just a race that should have been won. He let us down. And we had a president that was failing, and he should have won. But, and I backed John McCain originally, and then I backed Mitt Romney, and this time I said, Tony, I'm going to do it myself. We're going to win it this time.
You're listening to the weekend edition of Washington Watch. I'm your host, Tony Perkins, joined by Donald Trump. He is the current GOP frontrunner. You also, Donald, in this election are specifically reaching out to evangelical voters. Now, they comprise of about half of Republican primary voters, so a very significant voting bloc. I mean, how is it that you're connecting with them?
Well, I am a Protestant. I'm Presbyterian. I had my confirmation, and I sometimes, depending on the group I'm speaking to, I'll bring that picture. Young guy in First Presbyterian Church of Jamaica, New York, and it was, great to see. And it was a very diverse crowd in there, and it was just lovely to look at that picture. And I use it sometimes. People ask to see it, but I've had a great basis, and I've had a wonderful relationship with God. I have fantastic family. I mean, I am a worker. I've been to all parts of the world, and working to build a company like this doesn't give me the kind of time that I'd like to really, to do the things that I'd like to do, and that includes more church, and I love being in church. I grew up with Dr. Norman Vincent Peale was my pastor, and that's called The Power of Positive Thinking. He wrote the book, one of the great books of all time. That and The Art of the Deal both did very well, and he was an amazing guy. I listened to his sermons for many years, and then I just have a very good Christian base. And I've always felt very strongly about it. And I think that, frankly, the evangelicals, you look at Iowa, you look at the polls in Iowa, Tony, where I'm doing so well with the evangelicals, and, a lot of people are surprised that don't know me, but the people that know me aren't surprised. I'm not particularly surprised. But it's been, I've had a great relationship with the evangelicals, no question about it.
Well, Donald, as they zero in on who they're going to support, and obviously you're in the running for them, a lot of them, they obviously like your decisive position on so many of the critical issues. But they do want to know the role that your faith plays in your decision-making and how that would affect you as President of the United States.
Well, Tony, I can tell you this, that religious liberty is very important to me, and I see more and more, especially in particular Christians their power is being taken away. And, I just watch it and I get angry at it, but you look at what's going on with other religions. You look at, as an example, what's happening with respect to Muslims and others where perhaps they just band together better or something. But, the Christian, every year you see it more and more. You go from one thing to the next to a point where it's not politically correct to say Merry Christmas to anybody, or you go to stores and you don't ever see the word Christmas anymore. Right. You don't see that term anymore, Tony. And, one of the things I always say, and I say it lightheartedly, but I mean it. It's actually not supposed to be so lighthearted, and I get standing ovations, especially in Iowa and certain places, is we are going to start saying Merry Christmas again. Because you go into these stores, you don't see anything having to do with Christmas, and, it's disgraceful, frankly, as far as I'm concerned. And that's the way it should be, and I feel strongly about it.
Yeah, and I think that's another area where you are connecting with conservative voters. There was a poll out this week by Rasmussen that showed that among adults with school-age children at home, 82% favor celebrating Christmas in public schools. I mean, that's overwhelming. When you could reach something at 80%, that's almost universal. 61% of those same parents believe there should be more religion, the Christian religion, in those schools. But somehow that's been lost on the media and the cultural elite, and it appears that you have tapped into that, which is why I believe your numbers continue to they're not stagnant, they continue to rise, even in the midst of being attacked. I mean, how do you explain that? I mean, you've been attacked by the media, you've been attacked by other candidates, but your numbers haven't gone down.
Right. They've actually gone way up because, the new polls are coming out in the 40s now, 42, 41. I'm doing, the new public policy polling just came out, highly respected, and that just came out where I'm leading Iowa. And also, as you know, I'm leading Iowa in the CNN poll. The CNN poll just came out, a week and a half ago, and it was, I'm leading by 13 points. I'm at 33-20. For Ted Cruz, and I just think it's a natural constituency for me somehow. But when I see coaches being fired or suspended because they're having a prayer for football players, their players are grabbing each other's hand and praying before or after a game, and they suspend the coach and or fire the coach in some cases. Right. Mm-hmm. I say that's not happening in my. If I get in, that's not happening, Tony. I'll tell you right now, and I'll make a big deal out of it. I mean, we have some very important problems when you look at ISIS and the disaster of Obamacare and our military and our vets not being taken care of properly. But that's still something that is very important to me. And how do you suspend a coach because he's practicing his faith?
Right.
And then when I want to see what's going on with, as an example, it's been a very big subject, the whole thing with the Muslims, and you get lambasted for doing something, and yet they'll fire a coach who's a Christian coach because he's saying a prayer on a football field with his players. It's an incredible situation that's taking place.
Yeah, we've had
not a good one.
We've had Coach Kennedy, who I think you're making reference to, from Washington State on the program here.
Right.
We're just about out of time. I appreciate you joining us on this weekend, but you made reference to a number of issues that are top, and I would just ask you this: as you look at where the nation is today, based on 7 years now of Barack Obama's failed foreign and domestic policies, what are the top 3 initiatives that you would immediately take on as president?
Well, number one, build up the military and make it bigger and stronger and better than ever before, and believe it's the least expensive thing we could do because hopefully we won't have to use it when we're in that position. And as part of that, take care of the vets because we have to take care of our vets. We're going to have to repeal and replace Obamacare. It's dying anyway. It's going to fail anyway in 17. By 17, it'll be essentially gone. It hasn't worked. It's a disaster. And then you have so many things after that. We have to rebuild our infrastructure. We have to get rid of our debt. We have to do, Tony, I could talk to you for the next I could talk to you for the next 5 days and name things, but you look at our school system, we have to get rid of Common Core. We have to get rid of it, and we have to go back to local. We have to go back where the parents and the teachers and everybody can work locally together on education, because our education system is broken. And I want to protect the Second Amendment. There's a huge, just like there is on Christianity, there's a huge negative movement against the Second Amendment, and we need the Second Amendment protected.
Well, I don't disagree with you on that one, that's for sure. Donald Trump, thanks so much for joining us this weekend, and we look forward to talking to you again soon after the first of the year.
Thank you very much, Tony. Great honor.
And have a Merry Christmas.
You too. Have a Merry Christmas. That's great.